This is the Page Publishing Book Club. I'm Ella Stockton Rossini. How you doing? We're going to start off with Cliff Etheridge, a retired San Antonio cotton farmer who suffered a freak accident back in the 70s. An accident that could have destroyed his whole life, but instead, he made the best of it. And not only is he living a happy and productive life, he's helping others do the same. The name of his book, Flying with One Wing.
I initially wanted to write this book to help the other amputees, those who have lost limbs, and show them that what you can do, what you can achieve if you come through it and understand what you've got to deal with. And then I talked to a gentleman, a good friend of mine there in New York City. He suggested I make it fit for a wider audience, that it had too much in it that could benefit a lot of people. So I went back and rewrote it, and with the focus on the general public. So I was stripping cotton with a machine that gathers the cotton from the stalk, and on that field we were having trouble pulling up the stalks. Stalks were jamming the machine, and I was in a hurry. We were late in the season, and instead of turning the machine off to stop it, where I could have to crawl down and under the machine and then pull the stalks out backwards, I'd found that if I left the machine running and pulled them out from the top, the motion of the machine would help to free itself. But the danger of that was that I was up inside the machine pulling these stalks out, and sure enough, one set of stalks gave way too soon, too quickly, and instead of just pulling the stalks out smoothly, it jerked out, and my elbow went into a steel auger, which pulled me down inside the machine, and I had to try to save my life. I laid in it about 45 minutes, my dad estimated, before I was found.
So in spite of that happened in 1972. You were a successful farmer for how many years after that?
Well, until I was probably 70 years old, something like that. Another nearly 40 years.
So even after a tragedy like that, did you have to relearn how to do things, a lot of things?
Oh, yeah. I'm right side dominant, and I lost my right arm, so I had to learn to, well, the term I use is making the switch. I had to do everything with my left hand. I had to relearn how to do many things, but I found that with patience and dedication and learning a few tricks to how you accomplish daily living with one hand, one arm instead of two. But and I talk about that in the book. The book is about a lot of overcoming adversity and triumphing over hard times and bad feelings, and what it took for me to understand my predicament and what happened. And I go into an area that I feel like needs a whole lot more work done to understand it, and that is self-forgiveness. I think that our society is accustomed to forgiving others, and also we kind of leave forgiveness up to God, but it's very necessary to understand self-forgiveness, because I believe that's the cause of a lot of PTSD problems and depression and even the suicide. I believe that self-forgiveness needs a whole lot more exploring.
Well, I'm sure there's a lot of people who would agree with that. And you're lucky too. You had a family, you have a good wife, you have children. Their support must have meant everything to you.
I got married a few years after I lost my arm, so I found a woman that would accept a guy like me. Right soon after I was out of the hospital from my amputation, and worked with a young man, and I talk about this in the book, the fact that he lost his arm in a farming accident, and I visited with him several times. The chaplain of the hospital when it set that up, and then many years later, 20, 30 years later, I ran into this young man, and he was with his uncle, and he introduced me to his uncle and said, "This is the man that changed my life." And boy, that is a high compliment if you can affect another human being's life positively.
That is powerful. That is powerful, and not many people can say that.
I think it'd be a great help to anyone who has lost or caused a problem that affected a lot of people.
Sharma Ann Higgins has been writing since college, but it wasn't until she changed jobs and husbands that she found her creative wings, and now she's flying with Belated Justice.
I have just thousands of characters running around in my head. I have tons of first cousins and plenty of family, and so I'm kind of really good at compartmentalizing people's lives, and so my little characters have all developed on their own in these little niches in my brain. I have like a whole community of people.
Do they come to see you at night?
No.
They come and talk to you?
No, but I've gotten up in the middle of the night with a story and just couldn't stand it until I get up and write it down, and then I can lay back down. And some of them became full books, and others are books ready to go.
Wow. How many books have you written?
I have 19 more ready to publish.
All out of nowhere?
Yeah, I started with a few books up to 2000. Then I got married. That didn't work out. So now I'm actually with the guy who I fell in love with, truly fell in love with, and I have about 80 books, but 20 of them are done.
That's amazing, man.
I know.
That's like crazy.
It's a different one. Inspiration love gives you.
I like that. That gives everybody hope, right? Everybody who's listening, there's hope.
Oh, yes. Belated Justice is about solving an old mystery that seemed to have ruined the lives of a few people. My main characters are Ian and Thea. And as a child, when Ian was just a baby, his father had been disgraced. He shot a man in a duel, and the man died. And he was stripped of his family title and most of his wealth and exiled from England. And he took his family with him. So when he's a young man, Ian learns the truth and kind of makes him grow up in a hurry. And he's no longer a carefree young man. And eventually when his father passes away, he wants to know the truth because it's the only thing that will truly make him happy. So he goes back to England and ironically finds the woman who is running his family's estate. And he thought it would take him years. But he isn't quite prepared for the woman who's running the estate because she's a little powerhouse. He's attracted to her and he doesn't know how to deal with it.
Oh, okay.
Once you get into the story of it, she's kind of taking him by the hand and helping him.
All right. And then this continues on to another book.
Well, there's other books that have the same support characters. There's a few people who have parties here and there, and they get to see them in other books because they kind of join the little community. I have my whole little map of England and where people's houses are and their little stories and how long they live there.
You've got great character development here. Okay, so, obviously the question is, where do we go from here?
I took a couple copies of my book to the public library that's near me, and so there are people in my community reading my book. So I've walked in there and seen my book on the shelf, and just it makes me smile.
Well, it should. You worked hard to get there. Thank you. Alexandra Cortez investigates abuse and neglect in adult family homes and describes her first published book, All You've Given Me, as more of a side project inspired by her 2-year-old son.
He's just amazing, an amazing little 2-year-old little boy. And I think also that just kind of empowering him that sometimes we don't fit in, but eventually we will find our place in the world, and with love and support, we'll make it there. Basically, it's about a little bird that doesn't feel like they fit in, and through empowerment of their mother, they're able to learn about themselves and leave the nest and find their place in the world.
That's pretty easy.
Yeah, I think it's really important because I think at any point in a person's life, we all find out that maybe we don't fit in or don't feel like we fit in, and we find that beauty within ourselves.
Well, and you find out that if you don't fit in here, maybe you'll fit in somewhere else, and you don't necessarily have to change yourself.
Exactly. Yes, definitely. Because the uniqueness in you is what makes you special and what makes you so valuable in this world. I am working on getting into a couple of small bookstores. That way that I can actually, do some story times and things like that.
When are you going to do that?
I'm working on it now. I'm working with Barnes and Noble right now, and then I'm going to be setting an appointment with a local bookstore that I have here, and hopefully we'll get that rolling here soon.
Okay. Are you going to keep writing?
I actually am. I'm working on another story right now. The little birdie is going to go on a quest to find what career is going to be best for it.
Wow, that's a leap.
Yep, it sure is.
I mean, he's barely out of the nest, Mom.
I know.
You know what else I like about this book, though? It shows the importance of your parents, of the guidance of your mother, the guidance, that you get from them.
Oh, most definitely. Oh, definitely. Yeah. And being a parent is not always an easy task, but it's one of the most important ones.
Most important job you will ever have, ma'am.
Oh, most definitely. And my favorite.
Me too. Thanks so much for talking with me. Michael Carroll was a radio guy, a morning man, a news guy, sports reporter at several stations in Ohio before he retired. And then he got this crazy idea to write a book called Rudy.
Well, I'd been working on this, outlined and stuff and playing around with it. And a buddy of mine's son was told he only, had a short time to live. He said, he wants to read the whole book before he dies. So I went ahead and finished it and got y'all to print it up. And guess what? The docs were wrong. The boy's cured.
No.
We don't know where he's hitchhiking these days, and he's still, a young guy, kid.
That's amazing. That's like a miracle.
Just God works in wondrous ways.
That's so true. What's the book about?
Do you know anything about teddy bears?
They're furry and soft.
They just lay around on the bed, right?
Yeah, they kind of hang around, yeah.
Wrong. Teddy bears are the Magdalene, Rudy to be exact. Each of the Magdalene, in their time and in their place, get a mission to help a human being, at least one human being, somehow. And Rudy decided the spirit of Rudy would be in every teddy bear so he could help all the kids.
So what happens?
You have to buy the book and read it.
Give me a little bit more.
No, I can't do that.
Oh, you're not going to give me any more? That's it?
Well, what do you want it for?
So does he go on a journey or what? What's a Magdalene?
Magdalene are a people in another time and another place.
So this teddy bear goes around and helps kids.
The Magdalene.
Oh, the Magdalene.
At night comes from his time and place and puts his friendly, loving nature in the teddy bear while the child sleeps, or it might be a doll for girls, and then leaves. So when the kid wakes up, the first thing he does is he grabs the teddy bear and hugs him all the way to the breakfast table. That's the only way I can explain it. I did a much better job in the book.
Well, okay, I believe you. And you wrote this book because you wanted the Magdalene to come to a teddy bear that this little boy could hug, and he was cured.
Well, sort of, kind of. The boy just wanted to read the book, so I finished the book and had it printed.
All right, Michael, thank you so much. It is break time on the Page Publishing Book Club. Be back right after this.
Attention all authors. Page Publishing is looking for authors. Have you written a book and want to get it published? Page Publishing will get your book into bookstores and for sale online at Amazon, Apple iTunes, and other outlets. They handle all aspects of the publishing process for you: printing, cover art, publicity, copyright, and editing. Call 800-204-6099 now for your free author submission kit. That's 800-204-6099 for your free author submission kit.
We're back on the Page Publishing Book Club. I'm Alice Stockton Rossini. Josephine Pelt started writing back in the 70s and wanted to leave a legacy for her family, so she's published an autobiography entitled PJ's Story, Life and Struggles of a Single Mom.
It starts at the beginning, with family, with my family and the struggles we encountered growing up in rural Alabama in the South. And we know we had some hard struggles and some times, and had dreams of being successful in my life, being a businesswoman, and I always had dreams of making it in life. But then I encountered a lot of problems on my way, trying to get to the top. I made some bad choices in life, And then I had to suffer the consequence of them. But no matter how, the choices you make in life, you can always pull yourself up and start over again. I had a career. I started a career and I was working and doing pretty good. And then I became pregnant, became a single parent. And because of that, I had to make the choices on the job that I was working on. When you can't be pregnant and be single, it was like kind of government job and they had rules and regulations. So I lost my job because of that. And so I had to leave. I was in a town where there was nobody. I didn't have any family or anything. So the story is about PJ. PJ is the character in this story, really. So it's kind of like I said, it's based on my life. And I had to learn to put family, God first and then family and then others. PJ made the choice to raise her family, and to do the things that she needed to do to help her family grow. PJ chose to be a singer, because the guy, she was searching for love in men, and I always got hurt and disappointed. So she ended up with four children, being a single parent of four children. So she made the choice to just raise these children, and do the best she could in raising her children up. But she knew that she could not do it. She had been raised in a, kind of strict Christian home. Wasn't always like that, but her mother was a Christian lady, and she always taught them, the values of life. And so even though PJ stepped outside of the will of God, she, found her way back in the end. So, we make plans for our lives, but then sometimes our plans don't work out the way we want them to work out.
Right.
At a community center here in where I live, in my township where I live, there's a community center where I go, sometimes to do workouts and water aerobics and stuff. And so, and I, had my book signing there.
How was that?
It was great. I sold out of the books that I had ordered. I had ordered 50 books, but they sold out real quick, and there was other people wanting the book. So, I gave them the websites and stuff where they could order the book. And at Barnes and Noble, I'm trying to set up a book signing with them. The next goal I have in mind is to sign a book signing with Barnes and Noble, because we have one here in our city. So.
Okay, well, good for you. So do you feel like you're helping others by sharing your story?
Yes, I do. I do, because there are many single parents out there, not just women only. There are some single men out there too, so that are raising children alone. And that even though my children are all grown now, but I think the story will help them in, making the right choices and raising their children.
Kimberly Foster Jackson is a former special needs teacher in Broward County for almost 30 years. She not only found new purpose, but a book idea after her granddaughter was born. The name of her book, Lil Feet.
She's my only grandchild, and that's how I kind of started with the book. Because when my daughter had this little special gift, she had these little feet. And I kept saying, gosh, she's so little, but her feet look even smaller. And so when my daughter, brought her to my home, I became like a full-time grandmother that I would keep her, while the parents went to work. And so as she started getting older, she still had these little feet. And so it was so hard to find shoes. So we would buy the shoe socks, or we would just buy regular socks, because the shoes was always too big. And so that was why I named my first book Lil Feet, because her feet was little. But it was about like little different color shoes when she was able to wear shoes. So I would buy her all different kinds of shoes that I thought would fit, and I was just so excited when they did fit. So I would go out and get the same size but in different colors. Beach sandals, little high-top sneakers. So when I would buy these shoes that would fit her feet, I would buy matching outfits, little hats or little bows for her hair. So it's basically about different things that her little feet took her places where she was able to, find shoes where I was able to find shoes that would fit. And to the very end, her feet started to grow, like to catch up with her age and her size. So now, her feet has grown so much that I'm going to do a sequel called Big Feet, because her feet now seems to be a little bit longer, than her age and her height.
So we follow her on her travels with her different
Yes.
shoes.
Yes. And when I tell you she traveled, and I would get so many compliments with her shoes because I would go to Miami, Palm Beach. I found some shoes in Atlanta, and I would just search around, and I was so excited when I did find shoes to fit her, with all our travel. So now, like I said, she's 4 years old. She's in pre-K. And when I tell you this grandmother has bought this little girl so many pair of shoes to fit her feet, and each pair of shoes that she has today, they all fit her feet. I mean, they're a little too big because you have to buy them a little big, but, it's all about, her little feet now has become big feet or appropriate size to her age and body size.
Blondell Williams was an interior house painter who wrote her first poem in 1995 when things weren't going her way, and found writing helped her weather the storms of life. Now she's got a collection of spiritual poetry entitled The Sweetness of Him. Do you have one you can share with us?
I'll do a short one for you.
A little example of what we'll find.
I'm going to give you a really short poem. It's in your hands. Rise to the master of life and never think twice. Moving to the left or the right, he's got you. Have him first in your life and knowing you will never be left behind. Hold on, you're never alone. He will bring you through until the break of dawn.
Nice.
I'm doing a women conference in South Carolina, and I will be reading out of the book some of my poems. And I'm going to also making arrangement to one of the stores here in North Carolina to do a book signing.
Okay.
So which is a great start for me. I also been donating a few of my books to some of the public libraries in my hometown to get it out there, to let people know that the Word of God can really encourage your spirit, encourage you that it's more to life than just all the sadness and the madness and the disappointments, but there's a lot that the Word of God can do in your life. You have to be encouraged. And why not have the Word of God encouraging your life? It's a positive thing. I'm going to keep writing. God has given me 7 books to write. Gave me the name of the books to write. And I'm working on my second book should be out this year.
God gave you 7 books to write?
7.
And he named them for you already?
Every last one of them. Every last one of them.
Okay, that's pretty interesting.
Yes, I was like, God, I mean, one is enough. No. And I'm like, why 7? 7 is completion. And I'm like, oh, okay.
So does he come to you in your head or?
No, it was like when I worked on my first book, and I said, God, is just it? And now my spirit said, no, that's not it. You want to leave a legacy. And I'm like, yes. So this is part of your legacy. And I'm like, that would be great for me. I'm not disobedient. And I honored that. 7 is completion for him. And the 7 books I will be writing.
All right. Well, looking forward to it, Blondell. Thank you so much for talking with me.
Yes, thank you.
Finally, Ted Dengue led an extraordinary life as a doctor and wanted to document it for his family. The name of his book, So Far, So Good.
Well, I was a parachutist in the Army. Then I went to medical school under the GI Bill.
At the University of Rochester School of Medicine and Dentistry.
Yes, that's right.
And you married a classmate.
That's correct. Dr. Ann Duggy, she is a pediatrician. I met her. I sold her a textbook of physiology, human physiology by John Fulton.
And how long have you been married?
A long, long time.
Okay, so you're pretty funny.
1957, we got married, so...
Good for you. Good for you. So at the University of Rochester, you received training in pathology as a pathology fellow.
Yes, that's right. I was an intern in pathology.
All right, and you worked at the Centers for Disease Control and the University of Washington. So you dealt with public health.
Oh, yeah, well, public health is my field, and I'm a specialist in everything outside of the doctor's office.
What were some of the public health issues that you dealt with?
My special interest was injuries. Any kind of injuries, especially motor vehicle injuries. Injuries was a huge field, a huge issue affecting people's health, but nobody was paying attention to it.
How does it affect people's health?
The gamut is from very mild to life disabling. Most of these things are not accidents or random events, but rather they're chain of causation.
And you advise the American Medical Association Science Group responsible for environmental, public, and occupational health issues.
Yes, at the end of my career, I was responsible for environmental, public, and occupational health.
Was there anything in particular that stood out for you during that time?
The thing that stood out for me was injuries was such a huge issue for a public health issue, and nobody was paying any attention to it. So that I paid attention to it and made it my field and tried to raise the profile of public health at the very clinical, outside the doctor's office. Food, water, air, and it's a huge mishmash, but it had no recognition, appreciation as a huge issue at the AMA.
Do you feel like you made a difference?
Well, I think so.
Well, isn't that what's most important?
Yes.
Well, there you go, Dr. Ted. If every single person could leave the world a little bit better than the way we found it, we'd all be on the right track, right? Thanks so much. Thanks for being here with us. Thanks to the authors. And if you missed anything, just go to 710WOR.com and download the podcast. We'll see you next time. I'm Alice Stockton Rossini.